You might say it was a smear campaign gone bad.
And now Facebook has one big mess to clean up. That's next, smearing it away in Clayman's Corner. Have you heard about this? They took on Google and failed, backfired. Facebook scrambling to scrape some serious egg off its own face. Did you hear about this? The social networking giant caught red-handed admitting to hiring a top PR firm to spread smear stories throughout the media regarding privacy issues that involve its arch-rival, Google. The PR firm Burson Marsteller has done a full mea culpa, saying it was the wrong thing to do. But what's the fallout for Facebook? Let's bring in PR guru Bruce Turkel. He is CEO of Turkel Brand Management, joining me now in Clayman's Corner. Bruce, I looked at this, and this goes under the title, What Were They Thinking? But Facebook, let's lay it out. They paid Burson Marsteller, which is of course a PR company, to try and get reporters to do a smear story on Google, saying, can you believe it? They're giving your private information out. Nobody bit. But what were they thinking in trying to get reporters from USA Today, Washington Post et al. To do negative stories on their arch rival?
Well, it's pretty incredible if you think about it. I mean, here you have the Fox complaining about who is taking care of the hen house. What they were thinking is they're in a death battle over who's going to control revenues, online ad revenues. And I think the other thing they were thinking is, hey, we're Facebook. We can do anything they want. I mean, look, they made an Oscar-winning movie about whether the guy stole the idea or not. So why would they stop at that?
And so here's what they did. They go to all of these media outlets. Nobody's really biting because they're saying, Google has problems with privacy, but what you're talking about is a specific division of Google called Social Circle. The reporters did basic reporting work and realized it wasn't a story. They made the mistake of calling a blogger named Chris Sokian. And when this guy said, what do you mean you're offering to write something with me? So let me just continue this because it's an interesting story of how it goes. They go to a blogger from a blog called Pastebin, which I guess a lot of people in Silicon Valley look at, and the blogger says, well, who's paying you? And they said, we're not telling you. And he says, oh yeah, let me one-up you. I'm putting your emails on my website since you're not telling me. There it is. Who is paying for this? I mean, not paying me, but paying you to get me to do this story. And Burson Marsteller writes, can't tell you right now. We want to tell our viewers that Burson Marsteller told us that they have now admitted that it was Facebook because Facebook has now admitted it. But here's the statement. Now that Facebook has come forward, we can confirm that we undertook an assignment with that client. We'll take a quick commercial break and we'll try and get Bruce back in just a minute to continue this smear campaign discussion. Stay tuned. Let's get back to our discussion about Facebook with egg on its face after paying a PR firm to smear its arch rival Google. We've got PR guru Bruce Turkel, CEO of Turkel Brand Management, joining me once again. Sorry about that earlier issue, but Bruce, does Facebook, which apparently paid this company to try and lure reporters to do negative stories on Google, by the way, no journalist bid on this one because it was so poorly handled, does Facebook get hurt by this?
I don't think so. I mean, in the short term, you're talking about it. In the short term, they're getting some play for it. But it seems to me that people get hurt of the PR firm. As you pointed out, they handled it badly. They got no play. They didn't actually do what their clients hired them to do. Will anyone really care what Facebook has done? I don't think that's going to be a story that's going to last.
The company that they hired is Burson Marsteller, and that is a PR firm that's known to do crisis management. I think one of their clients was the government of Nigeria. They were fighting allegations of all kinds of human rights violations. I mean, these guys swoop in and try and do things, but this just shows if Facebook's willing to pay them to basically fake who they are and lure reporters unsuccessfully. I'm so happy the journalists didn't bite on this one, but lure reporters to write negative stories on a rival. Doesn't that look pathetic for the PR firm, which, by the way, is a company that's under the WPP PR giant company as well? So there's a big name here at stake.
Yeah, that's kind of stunning. I mean, you'd think they would know better. On the other hand, think about the meeting where Facebook gave them the assignment.
Yes.
I've been in a lot of these bureaucratic meetings. Who's the guy who's going to stand up and say, you know what? I don't think that's what we ought to be doing.
If you're Google, you're probably smiling right now saying, busted. Facebook tried to bring us down on our privacy issues when you've got your own privacy issues. Again, you're right. Burson got the assignment from Facebook, but does this show that Facebook's getting a little desperate or worried about Google encroaching on their social media territory that they've owned?
Well, Liz, there's a big war going on right now. Who is going to be the big daddy in the war to win online ad revenue? And it is Google versus Facebook. I guess the folks at Facebook have the hubris to believe they can do anything and thought this was a strategy that was going to make some benefit for them. Ultimately, the consumer doesn't care. It's already been shown that the consumer does not care that much about privacy. And the consumer only cares about getting what they want when they log on and they ask for information or want to catch up with their girlfriends from junior high school or whatever it is they're using the services for.
But in the end, does somebody get fired over this? And let's put back up the full screen of all the reporters they tried to lure in, from the Washington Post to USA Today, where the PR firm calls up and says, oh, we think you should do a story on how bad Google is and they're selling all of your product, all of your private information. And bloggers said forget it. USA Today said forget it. Everybody didn't bite. But does a head roll somewhere, whether it's at Facebook or Burson Marsteller?
Yeah, a head rolls at the PR firm. Because think of it, you said that they're experts in crisis management. They're all about branding, and let's face it, this is a branding issue, and the brand that got damaged here is the PR firms. Heads are going to roll over there.
Bruce, we love it. Come back again. Great perspective, Bruce Turkel.
I'd love to.
A smart PR guy who wouldn't take this assignment, I bet. Tonight, by the way, on Neil Cavuto, Neil will be speaking to Sir Martin Sorrell, who is WPP Group, is the parent of the PR company that tried to pull off this caper and ended up getting